Hello, everybody. It's Mr. E back for some practice. We're going to practice using all 5 methods that we've learned in this unit for solving quadratic equations. So let's get right to it. All right. Oh, I'm caught. Here we go. Whoops. Sorry, my plug is coming. There we go. Okay. All right. How do we solve a quadratic equation? Graphing. That's the easiest way. And I would recommend that you do that as often as possible. Plug in whatever equation you see, like that. What? Plug in the equation that you see into your calculator and graph it. Find the x-intercepts right there. The x-intercept. So let's see. This one is 1, 2, 3. That one right there is minus 3, 0. And that one right there is 2, 0. So that's the easiest way to do it. I would hardly suggest that you do that whenever you can. So let's go to factoring. Sometimes they might say, hey, solve this by factoring. So let's do that. So we want to find our A, our B, and our C values. And we're going to draw our X here. A times C goes on the top, B goes on the bottom. So let's get started. A times C, well, A is 1. So that's 6. 5 goes on the bottom. I need 2 factors of 6 that add up to 5. Looks like it'll be 2 and 3. And everything's positive, so that's easy. So now I can put it in the box over here. Let me make that box a little bit bigger. Put it in the box and factor it out. This is going to be x squared, and this is going to be 6. Those don't change. And instead of 5x, I'm going to split the middle and make it 2x plus 3x. And now I can find my factors. This is always going to be x and x right here, and there's no coefficient, so that's done. What times x gives me 3x? Well, that's a 3. Positive 3. What times 3 gives me 6? Well, that's a positive 2. So my factors are now x plus 2 times x plus 3 equals 0. So there it is in factored form. And now to solve, I just put this x plus 2 equals 0, and then x plus 3 equals 0. So subtract 2 from both sides for that one. X equals negative 2. And subtract 3 from both sides for that one, and x equals negative 3. So there's my 2 answers. And we can write them like this: minus 2, 0, and minus 3, 0. There's my 2 answers. Okay, there's factoring, there's graphing. Let's see, square roots. Well, that was pretty easy too. You can just plug that in your calculator. We just need to take the square root of both sides. The square root of x is x. Remember, those just cancel. I'm sorry, the square root of x squared is x. And the square root of 16 is plus or minus 4. Kudos if you remembered to do the plus or minus. Don't forget that. Remember, every positive number has 2 roots, a plus and a minus. Okay, completing the square. Well, this is, it's not so bad. It's not so bad. Okay, so, oh, look, it's already set up for us. So if this was back over there with a plus 3 on that side equals 0, like that, then that wouldn't be factorable. So we've moved the c value over here, and now we're going to get ourselves a new c value by taking half of b. Excuse me, if middle week or day is and please come to the front office. The reason, sorry, there's an announcement going on right now. Half b, I'm going to save that, but I'm going to use this. Half of b squared, well, that's 9. That's my magic number. That's the magic number I'm going to use. So I'm going to plug that back in. X squared plus 6x plus 9 equals minus 3 plus 9. Got to add it to both sides there. And now, the reason I wrote this right here is because that's what's going to go right here. That's the number that I use, because this right here is a perfect square trinomial. And it's going to be x plus half of that b squared. So there's that. And then minus 3 plus 9, that is 6. So now, I'm going to write this out one more time just so you see all the steps separately. I'm going to take the square root of both sides. Those cancel, so I've got x plus 3 equals plus or minus the square root of 6. 6 is not a perfect square. If I try to take the square root of that, I get a decimal. So now I just subtract 3 from both sides. That goes away. So now I've got x equals minus 3 plus or minus the square root of 6. And you can leave it like that, or you can write it like this, minus 3 plus or minus the square root of 6, comma 0 if you want to put it in coordinate point form, an ordered pair. Or you can plug those into your calculator if you really wanted to, and you would have minus 3 plus the square root of 6, and that would be minus 0.55 minus 0.55 comma 0, and the next one is a minus 5.45 comma 0. So this first one is the minus 3. I'll just put it up here in a different color. This is minus 3 plus square root of 6. And this is minus 3 minus the square root of 6. Because there's always two roots. Okay, there's that. Let's go to the quadratic formula. This one always works as well, and it's probably a little bit easier to do. You just plug numbers into the formula and evaluate. So, yeah, this always works. This always works. Okay. So let's plug it into our formula. Here's A. Here's A, here's B, and here's C. So our formula is this: x equals negative B, so negative 4, plus or minus the square root of B squared, so that's B squared, minus 4 times A, which is 1, times C, which is minus 6, all over 2 times A, which is 1. So our next step, right over here so we have some more room. We can simplify. We've got minus 4 plus or minus the square root of, well, 4 squared is 16. 4 times 1, that's just 4. That's a minus 4 times 1, a minus 4. A minus 4 times a minus 6, that's a positive 24. All over 2 times 1, which is just 2. I can simplify that one more time under the square root there. Remember, that's the discriminant. 16 plus 24, that is 40. All over 2. Now we can simplify that radical there. Let's simplify that radical. Let's see. I'm going to do it over here and do it in a different color. The square root of 40. Let's have a little simplifying radical review. Well, 2 factors of 40. It doesn't matter which ones you pick, because as long as you go all the way to the end of the trees there with the prime numbers, then you're going to be good. So I'll pick 2 and 20. 2 is a prime number, so 20 is 2 times 10. There's another prime number. 10 is 2 times 5. And those are all prime numbers. So here's a couple of 2s. I can pull those out. So that leaves me a 2. But these 2 don't match, so I'm going to have to take this guy. So this is 2 square root of 10. So that gives me 2 square root of 10. So my next step, I can use that instead. This will be x equals minus 4 plus or minus 2 square root of 10 all over 2. And let's see, I can reduce that. Remember, this is the same as writing minus 4 over 2 plus or minus 2 square root of 10 over 2. This part, that reduces to just minus 2. And these two cancel, so I can do 2 plus or minus the square root of 10. So there's my answer. X equals minus 2 plus or minus the square root of 10. And we can, let's get it into decimal form here. So x equals minus 2 plus 10. I'm sorry, square root of 10. And that decimal equivalent is 1.16. And then the other x is minus 2 minus the square root of 10. And that decimal equivalent is 5.16. So we can write our answers like this. I'm going to put them down here. We can write our answers like this. We can either write minus 2 plus or minus the square root of 10, comma 0, or we can write it like this, 1.16, comma 0, and 5.16, comma 0. So there's my two answers. Righty. So there is an example of each of the 5 methods that we've learned this unit. Let's go to the next page and take a look at what we have here. I'm going to do just a few of these. I'm not going to do them all. I'm going to do a few just to help you get going. Now this first one, excuse me. The first one, look at this. There is no middle term there. It's got no bx term. So I think the method that would work the best here is solving by square roots. We can take the square root of both sides. But first I got to isolate that x squared. So I'm going to divide by minus 2. And that gives me x squared equals, let's see, 162 divided by 2, that's 81, isn't it? 81, there we go. Take the square root of both sides. X equals plus or minus 9. There we go. So my answer is either plus minus 9, comma 0, or 9, 0, and minus 9, 0. That's where the parabola crosses. Okay, let's see. What do I want to do with this next one? Let's try factoring. That's probably factorable. Let's see. A times C is 36, and you got minus 13 on the bottom. Let's see. 2 factors of 36. Well, 6 and 6 won't work. 2 and 18. No, that doesn't work. Let's try a 9 and a 4. Yeah. 9 times 4 is 36. I need to add these together to get a negative 13, though. So that's going to be, they're both going to be negative. So now I can factor here. Right. That first term and the last term. Those work, but now I'm going to use these 2 terms instead. And then I'm going to find some factors out here. So let's see. Well, I know an x and an x goes here. Let's see. What do 6 and minus 9 have in common? Probably 3. 3. What times 3 gives me a minus 9? Well, that's a minus 3. What times a minus 3 gives me a 6? That's a plus 2. And then let's see, what times a 2 gives me a minus 4x? That'll be a minus 2, isn't it? Is that working? No, we need to... Oh, I see my mistake. That is a 2, but this needs to be a negative. There we go. A negative 2 times a negative 3 gives me a positive 6. So here's my factors. 2x minus 3 and 3x minus 2. That equals 0. So now we just set each of them equal to 0 and solve for x. Add 3 to both sides. 2x equals 3. Divided by 2. X equals 3 halves. That's the first one. The next one, 3x minus 2 equals 0. Add 2 to both sides. 3x equals 2. Divide by 3. So x equals 2/3. So my answers, 3 halves, comma 0, and 2/3, comma 0. There we go. So by factoring, let's see, I think I can do, let's do 2 more. Let's, well, neither one of these can really be simplified very easily to get 1 for my a term, so we don't want to complete the square with those, but we can, let's use a quadratic formula. Let's do that. So I've got a quadratic formula. So we're going to do x. Let's see. X equals negative b, and there's b, here's a, and here's c. Now b is already negative, so negative 10 plus or minus the square root of b squared, so minus 10 squared minus 4 times a, which is 5, times c, which is minus 21. All that's under the radical. And then on the bottom we have 2 times a, which is 5. All right. Let's simplify that a little bit. That minus negative 10, there, that becomes a positive 10. So we can simplify that. What can we do under the radical? Well, minus 10 squared, that's 100. Positive 100, because a negative times a negative is positive. And then let's see, minus 4 times 5 is a negative 20, and a negative 20 times a negative 21 is negative 20 times negative 21. You use my calculator. 420. It's a positive 420. And all of that is over 10. 2 times 5. So let's keep on simplifying. X equals 10 plus or minus. Let's see, that'll be 520 over 10. So let's do this. Let's simplify that radical. Let's see, what are 2 factors of 520? Well, let's just split in half. 2 and 260, 2 and 130, 2 and 65. Yeah. 2 and 65, yeah. Let's see, 65 is 5 times 13. So those are all prime numbers, so I can't really use that, so I'm going to use this. And, well, here's a couple of 2's I can pull out. But I still have this one left over, so I have to go back up 1, so I have to use that. Whoops. Yeah, I need to use a 130, so that becomes 2 over 130. So let's put that in. X equals 10 plus or minus 2 square root of 130 all over 10. So there's that. And can we simplify that some more? Well, we can do this. Oh yeah, we can simplify this. Let's write it out and I'll show you. This is actually 10 over 10 plus or minus 2 the square root of 130 over 10. So that x equals. So that first fraction, that's just 1. Right? So this becomes am I confusing myself? Well, the bottom's going to be, well, this fraction over here, this one right here, that's going to become 1/5. So let's change this to fifths over here too. We're going to put, we're going to make that 5. So, you know what? Ignore that step. Sorry about that. We're going to do this. This is going to become 1. This is going to become 5. And that's going to become 5. So x equals 5 plus or minus the square root of 130 over 5. So we reduce those fractions. Okay, so there's that, and we can now plug all that into the calculator, and that's going to be really ugly, but that's okay. So our answer is going to be this, and I'll write it in green down here. It'll be this, 5 plus or minus the square root of 130 over 5, comma 0. That's the coordinate point. Or I'm going to find the decimal equivalent of that. So 5 plus the square root of 130 over 5. Well, luckily somebody has done this already for me. That's 3.28. That's one of them. And now the 5 minus square root of 130 over 5, that's minus 1.28, comma 0. So there's our answers. All right. I'll do one last one. Let's do this one right here. And I've saved the easiest for last. Let's do this one by graphing it. But first we need to get it in standard form, so that means I need to add 5 to both sides. So that goes away. X squared minus 11x plus 24 equals 0. And now, my friends, I'm just going to hop over to Desmos, which I have right here. You can use your graphing calculator if you want. I'm going to use Desmos and plug that in. So let's see, that was x squared minus 11x plus 24. So x, I need to get this, I don't know if I can, here, I need to fold out my keyboard so I can type. Okay, x, oh, this isn't the way. Here, I'll have to raise that to the power. X squared, what was that, minus 11x? Minus 11x plus 24. Plus 24. There it is. So my points are right there and right there. Let's see, that's 3 and 8. All right. 3, 0, and 8 zeros. Let's go back there. So use your calculator and graph it. Graph it. Graph it. So I'm writing sideways here. Use your calculator and graph it. It was 3, 0, and 5, 0. So there we go. All right. Well, there's all but 2 of them done for you. So I'll save those last 2 for you. My suggestion is always graph it first. Easiest, easiest, easiest. If that doesn't work, use your second favorite method. And let me just remind you, completing the square always works, and the quadratic formula always works. So you probably want to try those next. If you like to factor, you can try factoring. But remember, you can't always factor. And if it's unfactorable, that doesn't mean you stop. Unfactorable doesn't mean unsolvable. So keep on using your different methods. Alrighty. I'll leave you with that, and have fun. Good luck on the test. Bye.